The Cleveland Browns locker room just witnessed something that could destroy their entire season, and I have the exclusive details that will blow your mind. Dillon Gabriel didn't just lose his cool. He completely exploded in a meltdown so intense that security had to be called, equipment was thrown, and veteran players are now questioning whether he belongs in the NFL at all. But here's what nobody's talking about, and this is where it gets really dark. This isn't just about sneakers and photo shoots. This is about a quarterback war that's about to tear apart one of the NFL's most promising teams. And the leaked audio I'm about to describe proves that this goes way deeper than anyone imagined. The incident happened last Tuesday at 2:47 p.m., according to multiple sources inside the Browns facility. Gabriel had just finished watching film when he got the notification that would change everything. His phone buzzed with a Nike Instagram post featuring Shedeur Sanders draped in custom gear, smiling that confident smile that drives his critics absolutely insane. The caption read, "The future isn't waiting, it's already here." Within seconds, Gabriel's face went from confusion to rage. Teammates described it as watching someone's soul leave their body in real time. He stared at his phone for what felt like an eternity, his hands visibly shaking, before the explosion that rocked the entire facility. Multiple insiders confirmed that Gabriel's meltdown was so intense that it lasted over 20 minutes and involved him screaming at coaches, throwing his helmet across the room, and making threats that could end his career in Cleveland forever. But that's just the beginning of this story, because what happened next in that private meeting with Coach Stefanski involves a trade demand, leaked text messages, and a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top of the Browns organization. The witnesses to Gabriel's breakdown paint a picture of a man completely losing control of his emotions and his career. "I've never seen anything like it," one anonymous player told me. Dillon was pacing around like a caged animal, muttering about how the system is rigged, how talent doesn't matter anymore, how it's all about who your daddy is. But here's where it gets really interesting. Gabriel wasn't just angry about the Nike deal. According to sources, he had been building up resentment for months, watching as Shedeur got preferential treatment in everything from media appearances to social media promotion. The Nike snub was just the final straw that broke the camel's back. Close your eyes and imagine this. You're standing in the Browns facility, and you can feel the tension crackling through the air like electricity before a massive storm. The usual sounds of a professional football facility, the clank of weights, the chatter of players, the squeaking of cleats on polished floors, all of that stops dead when Gabriel's voice erupts like a volcano. They only care about his last name, not his game. The words echo off the concrete walls and metal lockers, bouncing around the room like bullets. Equipment managers freeze in place. Coaches exchange worried glances. Younger players look around nervously, unsure whether to stay or leave. Meanwhile, just 30 feet away, Shedeur Sanders sits at his locker like he's in a completely different universe. He's scrolling through his phone with that signature smirk, completely unbothered by the chaos he's caused just by existing. His headphones are in, his posture is relaxed, and every few seconds he chuckles at something on his screen, probably the thousands of congratulatory messages flooding his DMs about the Nike deal. The contrast is striking and deliberate. Gabriel is having a public breakdown, his emotions raw and exposed for everyone to see. Shedeur is the picture of cool confidence, acting like he's above the drama even though he's the center of it. It's a masterclass in psychological warfare, and Shedeur doesn't even have to try. This is the moment everything changed. This is where a professional football team started splitting down the middle like a piece of wood under an axe. And this is where you realize that sometimes the biggest battles in the NFL happen in locker rooms, not on football fields. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you, and this is where this story becomes a thriller worthy of Hollywood. Gabriel had been expecting that Nike invite for weeks, and his agent had been in secret negotiations with Nike executives, positioning Gabriel as the ultimate underdog story. The walk-on who became a Heisman finalist, the small-town kid who clawed his way to an NFL starting job through pure determination and grit. They had PowerPoint presentations, they had marketing strategies, they had social media campaigns ready to launch. Gabriel's agent, Marcus Thompson, had been telling him for 3 weeks that the Nike deal was 99% done and that they were just working out the final details of the contract. Thompson had even gone as far as to have Gabriel's measurements sent to Nike for custom gear fittings. They had discussed photo shoot locations, commercial concepts, and Gabriel had already started planning how he would use the Nike platform to launch his own foundation for underprivileged youth football programs. Then, on that Tuesday afternoon, Nike pulled the plug without explanation, without a phone call, without even the courtesy of a rejection email. Gabriel found out the same way millions of other people did, through a social media post that featured Shedeur front and center, looking like he was born to wear Nike gear. The Instagram post that broke Gabriel's spirit was a masterpiece of marketing psychology, and Nike knew exactly what they were doing. The image showed Shedeur in a custom Nike jacket that probably cost more than most people's cars, standing in front of a backdrop that screamed luxury and success. His pose was casual but confident, like he belonged in that world of elite athletes and global brands. The caption was simple but devastating. "The future isn't waiting, it's already here." Within minutes, the comment section became a digital battlefield that would make Call of Duty players proud. Gabriel really got the whole league pressed. "Nike knows star power when they see it. Sorry, Dillon," wrote one user with 50,000 followers. The comment got 12,000 likes in the first hour. Another comment that went viral and currently has over 25,000 likes. "Imagine getting mad because Nike wants Shedeur Sanders, not you. You can't market mid." Dillon Gabriel is the definition of replacement level. But the comment that apparently sent Gabriel completely over the edge came from a verified account with the blue checkmark. This is what happens when talent meets marketability. Some people have it, some people don't. Shedeur was born for this moment. That last comment was screenshot and shared across every major sports platform. It was retweeted by NFL analysts, shared in Facebook groups, and turned into TikTok videos. Within 6 hours, it had been seen by over 2 million people, and Gabriel's name was trending on Twitter, but not for reasons he wanted. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where you need to pay close attention, because the numbers tell a story that nobody in the media wants to admit, and it exposes the brutal reality of modern professional sports. Let's break down the actual football performance, because this is where Gabriel thought he had Shedeur beat. Gabriel's stats from last season paint the picture of a quarterback who was not just good, but elite. 4,127 passing yards, ranked 8th in the NFL, 32 touchdowns, tied for 6th, 11 interceptions, better than Aaron Rodgers, and a 67.8% completion rate that put him in the top 10 among all NFL quarterbacks. His advanced metrics were even more impressive. Gabriel had a QBR of 78.4, a passer rating of 104.7, and he led the Browns to their first playoff appearance in 3 years. He threw for over 300 yards in 8 different games, had a perfect passer rating in 2 games, and never threw more than 2 interceptions in a single game all season. Compare that to Shedeur's numbers, which tell a very different story. 3,214 yards, ranked 18th, 24 touchdowns, tied for 14th. 9 interceptions, admittedly better than Gabriel, and a 65.1% completion rate that was barely above average. His QBR was 71.2, his passer rating was 96.8, and the team missed the playoffs despite having a better defense than Cleveland. On paper, Gabriel absolutely destroyed Shedeur in every meaningful statistical category. But here's the brutal truth that's eating Gabriel alive like acid. None of those stats mattered to Nike, and they don't matter to the modern sports marketing machine. This isn't about football anymore, and that's what's driving Gabriel insane. It's about something much bigger, something that's fundamentally changing the entire landscape of professional sports, and it's something that traditional players like Gabriel are completely unprepared for. According to sources close to Nike's marketing department, their executives held a series of meetings over the past 6 months where they specifically discussed wanting quarterbacks who could transcend football and become cultural ambassadors for the brand. The exact quote from one Nike executive, according to my source, was, "We don't want football players who happen to be marketable. We want cultural icons who happen to play football." Shedeur Sanders fits that mold like he was designed in a laboratory specifically for this purpose. His Instagram following of 2.8 million rivals, Hollywood A-listers, and musicians. His TikTok videos regularly get over 1 million views, even when they're just him eating breakfast or working out. His every move gets dissected on sports talk shows, analyzed by social media experts, and turned into content by dozens of other creators. His name alone generates headlines that have nothing to do with football. When he changes his hairstyle, it becomes a trending topic. When he wears a new outfit, fashion blogs write articles about it. When he posts a picture with his girlfriend, it gets more engagement than most NFL highlight reels. Gabriel, on the other hand, has 340,000 Instagram followers, most of whom are hardcore Browns fans or people from his hometown. His posts get a few thousand likes, maybe 100 comments, and they're mostly about football or generic motivational quotes. He's never been featured in a fashion magazine, never been invited to a celebrity event, and never had a social media post go viral for reasons unrelated to sports. But here's the question that's keeping NFL executives, agents, and players awake at night, and it's a question that could fundamentally change how we think about professional sports. What happens when talent isn't enough anymore? What happens when being great at your job isn't sufficient to guarantee success in your field? The answer is playing out in real time in Cleveland, and it's terrifying for players like Gabriel, who thought that hard work, dedication, and performance would be enough to build a successful career. The next morning at practice, ESPN's cameras caught something that revealed just how deep this psychological wound goes. And the footage is honestly hard to watch if you have any empathy for Gabriel as a human being. Gabriel arrived at the facility at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours earlier than usual, according to security logs. He went straight to the weight room and spent an hour lifting with an intensity that worried the strength and conditioning coaches. He was throwing weights around like he was trying to hurt himself, one coach told me anonymously. When practice started at 9 a.m., Gabriel was visibly shaken in a way that veteran players had never seen before. His usual pre-practice routine, stretching, throwing warm-up passes, joking with teammates, was completely absent. Instead, he stood by himself on the sideline, staring at his phone, scrolling through what teammates assumed were the thousands of comments and articles about the Nike situation. During the first passing drill, Gabriel's timing was completely off. Passes that he could make in his sleep were sailing over receivers' heads or hitting the ground short. His footwork, usually precise and mechanical, looked sloppy and rushed. His decision-making, typically his strongest asset, seemed clouded by emotion and distraction. The most telling moment came during a simple 7-on-7 drill that Gabriel had run thousands of times in his career. He took the snap, looked to his right where his primary receiver was running a simple out route, and instead of making the easy throw, he held the ball for too long, got pressured by the defense, and threw an interception that would have been returned for a touchdown in a real game. Coach Stefanski called a timeout and pulled Gabriel aside for what appeared to be an intense conversation. Gabriel was shaking his head, gesturing with his hands, and at one point he threw his helmet on the ground in frustration. Meanwhile, Shedeur went about his business with that unshakable confidence that drives his critics absolutely insane and makes his supporters love him even more. His practice performance was flawless. Every throw was on target. Every decision was crisp. Every interaction with coaches and teammates was professional and positive. After practice, while Gabriel stormed off the field without speaking to anyone, avoiding reporters and teammates alike, Shedeur stayed behind for an extra 30 minutes. He signed autographs for the dozen fans who had gathered outside the practice facility, took selfies with kids, and even spent 10 minutes talking to an elderly Browns fan who had been coming to practices for 40 years. When a young fan, probably 8 or 9 years old, asked him about the Nike event, Shedeur knelt down to the kid's eye level, smiled that million-dollar smile, and said, "I'm going to make sure Cleveland's represented right, little man. You keep supporting the Browns, okay?" The interaction was captured on someone's phone and posted to social media, where it immediately went viral with captions like, "This is why Shedeur is different, and leadership looks like this." The video got over 500,000 views in the first 2 hours and was shared by several NFL analysts and former players. The optics couldn't have been worse for Gabriel, and everyone in that facility knew it. While Gabriel was having a public breakdown and avoiding responsibility, Shedeur was being the face of the franchise, connecting with fans and showing exactly why Nike chose him over his teammate. But here's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, and it's a development that could have implications far beyond just the Browns organization. The Cleveland locker room is now completely divided along generational, philosophical, and cultural lines, and it's not just about Gabriel versus Shedeur anymore. This is about old school versus new school, merit versus marketability, traditional football values versus modern brand building, and it's tearing the team apart from the inside like a cancer that's spreading to every corner of the organization. The veteran players, guys who came up in an era where your play on the field was the only thing that mattered, are frustrated with Gabriel's attitude and what they see as his inability to handle the modern realities of professional sports. Joe Thomas, the Browns' legendary offensive tackle who's now retired but still has influence in the organization, was reportedly contacted by several current players asking for his perspective. According to sources, Thomas told them, "In my day, you let your play do the talking. If Dillon's upset about endorsements, he should channel that energy into being so good that companies can't ignore him." One anonymous offensive lineman, a 10-year veteran who's been with 3 different teams, told reporters, "We've got real games to win, real opponents to prepare for, real goals to accomplish. This Nike drama, that's noise, that's distraction, that's the kind of stuff that loses you games in December when everything matters. If Dillon can't handle Shedeur getting shine, maybe he's not built for this league." Another veteran, a defensive captain who's been in the league for 8 years, was even more direct. "Look, I respect Dillon's game. He can throw the football, no question about that. But this tantrum over a sneaker deal, that's soft, that's weak. You want to prove you belong? Go out there and ball. Show Nike they made a mistake. Don't cry about it like a little kid who didn't get picked for the team." The veterans see Gabriel's reaction as a character flaw, a sign of mental weakness that could be contagious in a locker room where mental toughness is everything. They worry that if Gabriel can't handle this kind of adversity, how will he perform in crucial moments during games when the pressure is even higher? But the younger players, guys who grew up in the social media era and understand the power of personal branding, are rallying behind Gabriel in a way that's creating a generational divide that threatens to split the team permanently. These players see Gabriel's frustration as completely justified, and they view what's happening to him as a cautionary tale about how the NFL is changing in ways that aren't necessarily fair or merit-based. Several rookies and second-year players have formed what teammates are calling the Gabriel Coalition, and they're not shy about expressing their support for their quarterback. One defensive back, speaking off the record because he fears retaliation from the organization, said, "Dillon's right to be pissed, and anyone who says otherwise is lying to themselves." He threw for over 4,000 yards last season. Shedeur barely cracked 3,200. Dillon had 32 touchdowns, Shedeur had 24. Dillon's completion percentage was higher, his QBR was higher, his team made the playoffs. But Shedeur gets the Nike deal? That's messed up, and it's exactly what's wrong with this league. A rookie wide receiver, who requested anonymity, was even more passionate. This isn't about football anymore. It's about who has the right connections, who was born into the right family, who looks good on Instagram. Dillon worked his ass off to get here. He was a walk-on in college, nobody recruited him, he had to earn everything he got. Shedeur, he's been handed everything since he was born. His dad opened every door for him, and now he's getting rewarded for things that have nothing to do with football. The younger players see this as a systemic problem that goes beyond just Gabriel and Shedeur. They worry that the NFL is becoming a league where your social media following matters more than your football ability, where your marketability is more important than your work ethic, and where being born into the right family gives you advantages that can't be overcome through talent and dedication alone. Coach Kevin Stefanski, realizing that his team was on the verge of a complete meltdown, called both quarterbacks into his office for what was supposed to be a peacemaking session that would put this controversy to rest and get everyone focused back on football. Instead, it became the meeting that might have sealed Gabriel's fate in Cleveland forever and exposed just how deep this rift really goes. The meeting took place in Stefanski's office at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, exactly 24 hours after Gabriel's initial meltdown. Present were Stefanski, Gabriel, Shedeur, offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, and general manager Andrew Barry. The meeting was supposed to last 30 minutes. It went on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. According to someone familiar with the conversation, who spoke to me on condition of anonymity, Stefanski opened the meeting by trying to emphasize team unity and remind both quarterbacks that their primary job is winning football games, not chasing endorsement deals or building personal brands. "Gentlemen," Stefanski reportedly began, "we're here because this situation has gotten out of hand, and it's affecting our team chemistry. We need to get back to focusing on what matters, preparing for the season and winning football games." Gabriel wasn't having it. According to my source, he immediately went on the offensive, accusing the organization of playing favorites and creating an environment where Shedeur was treated like royalty while he was treated like a second-class citizen. "Coach, with all due respect, this isn't about football anymore," Gabriel allegedly said, his voice rising with each word. "This is about who brings in the money, who sells jerseys, who gets the social media buzz. And I get it. I understand the business side of this. I'm not naive. But I'm not Dillon Sanders' kid, and I shouldn't be punished for that." Gabriel then launched into a detailed list of grievances that he had apparently been keeping track of for months. He pointed to how the Browns' social media accounts consistently featured Shedeur's highlights over his own, even when Gabriel had better statistical performances. He mentioned how Shedeur was given priority scheduling for media appearances and promotional events. He brought up how ownership had personally attended Shedeur's contract signing, but had sent an assistant to Gabriel's. "Every decision this organization makes is about protecting and promoting Shedeur," Gabriel continued. "I'm the one who led this team to the playoffs last year. I'm the one who broke franchise records. I'm the one who put up better numbers in every statistical category. But he's the one getting the Nike deal, he's the one getting the preferential treatment, he's the one being positioned as the face of this franchise." Then came the bombshell that sent shockwaves through the front office and changed the entire dynamic of the meeting. Gabriel looked directly at Stefanski and Barry and said, "If this is how it's going to be, if I'm always going to be playing second fiddle to someone who hasn't earned what I've earned, then maybe it's time for me to find somewhere else to play." The room went completely silent. According to my source, you could hear the air conditioning humming and the distant sound of players in the hallway. Stefanski and Barry exchanged glances, Van Pelt shifted uncomfortably in his chair, and Shedeur continued to sit quietly, showing no emotion whatsoever. Shedeur's response to Gabriel's emotional outburst was so perfectly calculated and psychologically devastating that it might have been the moment that ended Gabriel's career in Cleveland, and it showed exactly why he's destined to be a superstar both on and off the field. After Gabriel finished his passionate speech about fairness and merit and earning respect, Stefanski turned to Shedeur and asked if he had anything to add to the conversation. The room was tense, everyone expecting Shedeur to either defend himself or fire back at Gabriel's accusations. Instead, Shedeur took a long pause, looked directly at Gabriel with those calm, confident eyes that have stared down defensive coordinators and hostile crowds, and delivered a response that was so simple and so devastating that it left Gabriel speechless. "Coach," Shedeur said in a voice that was steady and professional, "I'm here to play football. Everything else is extra." That's it. 7 words that completely deflated Gabriel's entire argument and made him look petty, jealous, and unprofessional by comparison. While Gabriel had spent 20 minutes complaining about fairness and treatment and respect, Shedeur had positioned himself as the mature, focused, team-first player who was above the drama. But Shedeur wasn't done. According to my source, he then turned to Gabriel and said, "Dillon, I respect your game, man. You had a great season last year, and you deserve credit for that. But I can't control what Nike does or doesn't do. I can't control what the social media team posts or what the front office prioritizes. All I can control is how I prepare, how I practice, and how I perform on Sundays. That's what I'm focused on, and that's what I think we should all be focused on." The response was perfect. It acknowledged Gabriel's accomplishments without being condescending. It deflected responsibility for the Nike situation without being defensive, and it positioned Shedeur as the mature leader who was focused on team success rather than personal grievances. Gabriel's reaction, according to my source, was visible frustration and anger. He had expected Shedeur to engage in the argument, to defend his advantages, to show some emotion or defensiveness. Instead, Shedeur had taken the high road in a way that made Gabriel's complaint seem petty and selfish. While Gabriel was having his emotional breakdown and making trade demands, the Browns front office was looking at numbers that tell a completely different story about the value each quarterback brings to the organization. And these numbers explain why Nike chose Shedeur and why the Browns will probably choose him too. The financial impact of Shedeur Sanders on the Cleveland Browns organization has been nothing short of extraordinary, and it's changing how NFL teams think about player value beyond just on-field performance. Since Shedeur joined the team, Browns merchandise sales have increased by 47% compared to the same period last year. His jersey became the fastest-selling Browns jersey in franchise history, moving over 50,000 units in the first month alone. The team's social media accounts have gained over 300,000 new followers across all platforms, with engagement rates increasing by 65%. Season ticket sales, which had been stagnant for years, saw a 23% increase after Shedeur's signing was announced. Corporate sponsorship deals have become easier to negotiate, with several companies specifically mentioning Shedeur's marketability as a factor in their decision to partner with the Browns. The team's brand value, according to Forbes, has increased by an estimated $75 million since Shedeur joined the roster. Television ratings for Browns games have increased by 18% in key demographic categories that advertisers care about most. Local businesses report increased foot traffic on game days, and the city of Cleveland has seen a measurable uptick in tourism related to Browns games. Nike's partnership with Shedeur has created a halo effect that benefits the entire organization. When Shedeur posts a picture wearing Browns gear, it gets shared thousands of times and generates millions of impressions for the team brand. When he appears in Nike commercials, the Browns logo is prominently featured, giving the team national exposure that would cost millions of dollars to purchase through traditional advertising. One anonymous front office executive put it bluntly, "Shedeur is a walking billboard for this franchise. He's doing more for our brand off the field than most players do on it. He's generating revenue streams that we never even knew existed." If that pisses off Gabriel, well, welcome to the business of professional sports. But this story goes much deeper than just two quarterbacks and a Nike deal. And what's happening in Cleveland is sending shockwaves throughout the entire NFL that could fundamentally change how teams evaluate, draft, and compensate players for years to come. League insiders are already whispering about the long-term implications of the Gabriel-Shedeur situation, and the conversations happening in front offices across the NFL are fascinating and terrifying depending on your perspective. General managers are now asking questions that would have seemed ridiculous just 5 years ago. How many Instagram followers does this draft prospect have? What's his TikTok engagement rate? Has he ever gone viral? Does he have the personality to be a brand ambassador? Can he handle media pressure? Will he generate merchandise sales? Player agents are restructuring their approach to contract negotiations, demanding clauses related to social media usage, marketing opportunities, and brand partnerships. They're hiring social media managers and brand consultants for their clients, recognizing that off-field marketability can be just as valuable as on-field performance. Teams are creating new positions in their front offices: director of player branding, social media strategist, cultural impact analyst, roles that didn't exist a decade ago but are now considered essential for competitive advantage. The ripple effects are being felt at the college level too. Recruiting coordinators are now evaluating high school prospects not just on their athletic ability, but on their social media presence, their family connections, and their potential for marketability. College programs are offering social media training and personal branding courses to their athletes. But perhaps the most troubling aspect of this entire situation is the psychological toll it's taking on players like Gabriel, who are watching the game they love transform into something they don't recognize. And the mental health implications are serious and largely ignored. Sports psychologists who work with NFL players are reporting an increase in anxiety, depression, and identity crisis issues among athletes who feel like they're being left behind by the changing landscape of professional sports. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who has worked with NFL players for over 15 years, told me, We're seeing more and more players struggling with feelings of inadequacy that have nothing to do with their athletic performance. They're comparing themselves not just to other players' statistics, but to their social media followings, their endorsement deals, their cultural relevance. It's creating a mental health crisis that the league isn't adequately addressing. Gabriel's situation is a perfect example of this phenomenon. By every traditional measure of quarterback success, he's having an excellent career. He's starting in the NFL, he's putting up good numbers, he's leading his team to victories. But because he can't compete with Shedeur in the marketing and branding arena, he feels like a failure. The pressure to be not just a great athlete, but also a content creator, brand ambassador, and cultural icon is overwhelming for players who just want to focus on football. They're being asked to be entertainers, influencers, and business people on top of being elite athletes, and many of them aren't equipped for that kind of multifaceted pressure. Nike's Next Gen Football Showcase kicks off in just 6 days, and the event has become a symbol of everything that's wrong with modern professional sports, according to Gabriel's supporters, and everything that's right about it, according to Shedeur's fans. The showcase, being held at Nike's headquarters in Los Angeles, will feature 12 of the NFL's rising stars in a series of promotional events, photo shoots, and marketing activations. Shedeur will be the featured quarterback, appearing in commercials, participating in panel discussions, and serving as the face of Nike's new Future of Football campaign. The event will be live streamed on multiple platforms, with an expected audience of over 5 million viewers. Shedeur will earn a reported $2.5 million for his participation, plus bonuses based on social media engagement and merchandise sales. He'll also receive a signature shoe deal that could be worth tens of millions of dollars over the next 5 years. Meanwhile, Gabriel will be in Cleveland, participating in voluntary workouts and watching from the sidelines as his teammate builds a global brand. The contrast couldn't be more stark or more painful for Gabriel to witness. But here's the most devastating part of this entire story, and it's something that reveals the true nature of modern professional sports. According to multiple sources, this was supposed to be a quiet off-season for the Browns. The team had made the playoffs, both quarterbacks were under contract, and there were no major controversies or distractions expected. Instead, it's turned into a full-blown marketing war that's dividing the locker room, creating media headlines, and forcing the organization to choose between two different visions of what an NFL quarterback should be in 2024. Shedeur Sanders is winning this war effortlessly, without even trying, simply by being himself. He doesn't have to attack Gabriel or defend his advantages. He just has to exist, and his natural charisma, family connections, and cultural relevance do the rest. As one veteran told reporters privately, "It's over. This team belongs to Shedeur, even off the field. The front office knows it, the coaches know it, the players know it." And the scariest part for Dillon? He knows it too. This isn't just about Dillon Gabriel's hurt feelings or Shedeur Sanders' Nike deal or even the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. This is about the fundamental transformation of professional sports in America, where your Instagram followers matter more than your completion percentage, where your last name carries more weight than your work ethic, and where being great at football isn't enough to guarantee success in the NFL. The NFL is changing at a pace that's leaving traditional players, coaches, and fans struggling to keep up. The league that once valued toughness, dedication, and pure athletic ability above all else is now prioritizing marketability, social media savvy, and cultural relevance. Players like Shedeur Sanders understand this new reality instinctively because they were raised in it, molded by it, and trained for it from childhood. They don't see it as a corruption of the game. They see it as evolution, as progress, as the natural next step in the development of professional sports, as entertainment. Players like Gabriel are just now waking up to the fact that the game has changed, and they're playing by outdated rules in a competition where the scoring system has been completely rewritten. They're bringing knives to gunfights, playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess. The question isn't whether Gabriel will request a trade. It's whether any team will want a quarterback who can't handle the modern realities of professional sports. And the answer to that question will determine not just Gabriel's future, but the future of every player who thinks talent alone is enough to succeed in today's NFL. Teams are already making decisions based on these new criteria. Draft boards are being rewritten to account for social media presence. Contract negotiations are including clauses about marketing obligations. Player development programs are teaching brand management alongside football fundamentals. This is the new reality of professional sports. This is the future that's already here, whether we like it or not. And this is why Dillon Gabriel's Nike meltdown matters more than just one player's hurt feelings. It's a preview of the battles that will define the next generation of professional athletics. The game has changed forever. The only question is, are you ready for what comes next? What do you think about this transformation of professional sports? Is Gabriel right to be frustrated with a system that values marketability over merit? Or does he need to accept that the NFL has evolved beyond just football performance? Are we witnessing the death of traditional athletic values or the birth of a more entertaining and engaging form of professional sports? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one and I want to hear your perspective on this story. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll be following every twist and turn as it unfolds, and I have a feeling we're going to see some major developments in the coming weeks that will shock the entire NFL world. The future of professional sports is being written right now, and you're witnessing history in the making.